With Season 5 of Stranger Things nearly on our screens, we have some questions which are yet to be answered, including what is the exact connection between Eleven and Vecna, and do they share more than meets the eye? Welcome to my channel, my name is Em, aka Horror, and in today's video I will be discussing the possible connection between Eleven and Vecna, which is yet to be fully explained. Eleven and Vecna, two very important characters who could both change the course of Stranger Things in many different ways. Eleven has been a vital part of the series since the pilot episode, whilst Vecna has been on our screens for only one season but holds equal importance to the story. There has always been more than a link hinted to Eleven and the Upside Down, a place where Vecna's powers reached his full potential. We now know that Eleven created this place when she unintentionally banished Vecna there, which in turn implies a connection between the two characters. So what is the link, and exactly how are the two characters connected outside of being Dr. Brenner's children? Whilst there are the obvious similarities and connections to the two, such as their childhoods being filled with exploitation and experiments on them, there is one link which seems to be overlooked, most likely due to the fascination of what it is, and also because in the world that they grew up in, they were surrounded by children like them. I am, of course, talking about their powers. We see the children in the lab have all sorts of psychic abilities, ranging from illusion manipulation to remote viewing. However, from what we have seen, Vecna and Eleven are the two who seem to hold the most similarities in their powers' extent. This is where this theory that Vecna and Eleven starts to gain substance. What if Eleven and Vecna are more than just good versus bad? What if they are reflections of each other through their powers? To understand this possibility a little bit more, we need to look back further than Hawkins and Brenner and need to understand what made Vecna. Before he was ever known as Vecna or One, he was Henry Creel, a young boy with the most unbelievable powers. Henry was born with his powers, telekinesis, telepathy, and the ability to enter minds. He could sense emotions, alter perceptions, and even control biological systems. In other words, he didn't need the Upside Down to be powerful. The Upside Down did, however, need him to thrive. When Henry's father was arrested after the murders of Henry's mother and sister, which were actually committed by Henry himself, Brenner found Henry, and this is how he became Brenner's first experiment, aka One. When Brenner discovered Henry's potential, he tried to replicate it. He used Henry as the blueprint to make more like him, creating the other children known as the Hawkins Lab test subjects. Among these children was Eleven. So while Henry was the original, Eleven was his successor, both products of the same experiment born from Brenner's obsession with harnessing psychic energy. In Season 4, we see that Eleven and Henry, known at the time as One, form a strange, almost protective bond inside the lab. Henry manipulates her emotionally, trying to convince her that they're the same. He tells her that they're both special and both misunderstood. Whilst he is not lying by telling her this, he ultimately does underestimate her and how, although they are similar, they are also very different. The turning point where Eleven did unknowingly create Vecna and the Upside Down is where everything changed for both characters. Eleven refuses Henry's attempts to turn her into his partner in destruction and rejects his ideology. She fights back and, using all of her power, she launches him into the Upside Down. When she did this, she didn't just defeat Henry, she transformed him. The energy blast she used wasn't ordinary telekinesis, it was explosive. It didn't kill Henry, it reshaped him into the creature known as Vecna. Of course, she did all of this not knowing what she was doing, which for a child so young can only indicate what her full potential would be going forward, which is something that Vecna undoubtedly saw in her. So not only are Eleven and Vecna connected, she is the reason Vecna exists in his current form, which is a bond that can never be broken. It is also good to highlight here that whilst Eleven did create Vecna, his DNA is also what made her the way she is in the first place, a real circle in events. So with all of this in mind, it does lead to the question of, do Eleven and Vecna have the same powers? Are they the same? Well, when you look into it, on the surface, Eleven and Vecna share many of the same abilities, but when you dig deeper, things get much more interesting. When you look at the powers of both individuals, this is where you can start to see more than what meets the eye initially. Telekinesis, mind reading, and entering mental spaces are abilities both have, but what's fascinating is how both of them connect to the mindscape. Both navigate through memories as if they're physical spaces. They can manipulate time and perception inside someone's mind. When Vecna invades his victim's consciousness, he puts them into a distorted version of their past. When Eleven searches for someone, she steps into a psychic void to locate them, learning from their past experiences to help them. Another similarity in their powers is how disruptive both can be. Both are very capable of killing someone with just a look, and this being done in a very aggressive manner. Whilst Vecna literally breaks people's bones and crushes them with his power, Eleven acts in a similar way. The one thing, however, that separates them is how they use their powers. When we look at the use of telekinesis, Eleven is more physical, using brute mental force, and Vecna is more precise and controlled. Both of them can enter other people's minds, but Eleven uses it mostly to communicate or locate people, whilst Vecna uses it to manipulate, torment, and kill. Both of them can open or interact with gates, with Eleven opening the first gate accidentally and opening others intentionally using her power, and Vecna opening gates by killing his victims in the real world, tearing holes into reality. This suggests that both can affect the fabric of dimensions, but in very different ways. The biggest difference, however, is the power source. Whilst Eleven's power comes from emotion, love, and her desire to protect, Vecna's power comes from his belief in chaos, his hatred of humanity, and his embrace of the upside down. So whilst Eleven and Vecna have the same type of powers, their powers come from opposite emotional states. Vecna uses his power destructively, whilst Eleven uses it defensively. But here's the twist. The upside down reacts to both of them. When Vecna kills, gates open. When Eleven fights him, the upside down pulses and shifts. It's almost as if their powers are tied to the larger energy of this parallel dimension, one that they both manipulate but neither fully understand. So are their powers fragments of something bigger? Season 5 is definitely hinting at this. As the Upside Down listens to both characters' powers, this is all pointing to it playing more of a part in the final battle, and will depend on who the Upside Down chooses to listen to in the final moments, which at this point can go either way. Vecna has certainly gained an army of people from Hawkins through his powers, and may or may not have people working for him that are closer to 11 than what we think. This leads nicely into my last question. Will 11 become like Vecna? With all of the similarities, trauma and powers that 11 and Vecna share, could this potentially also lead to 11's doom? Could she turn into what she fears? The danger of this possibility is always there. In Season 4, when she confronts Vecna, he tells her, "You and I are alike." Is he wrong? Not entirely, and that's what makes their connection so compelling and terrifying. Either way, one thing is for certain, the final battle between them both is going to be the most vicious and fierce we have seen. So as always, what do you guys think? Are 11 and Vecna the same? Do you think 11 will become like Vecna? Let me know down in the comments section. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and switch on that notifications button, as I will be uploading more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my other content here. With that being said, I will see you in the next video.